Okay, it's done. And you see the title. Is this the future? That's the best way to say this because, look, we know that this is just an Impact Plus show. It's meant for the insiders and ultimate insiders and anyone who pays for the Fightful app. I mean, that's just how it is. It's not meant to be a PLE like a WWE, and it's not meant to be a pay-per-view like Impact normally does. It's way lower quality, and you can see the quality because of how the production was. Look, instead of bringing their own people, if anybody says, look, they don't show the greatest stuff, it's not the point. This is low quality, and it's been like this for many years. The camera was really bad because they used local cameramen instead of bringing their own. The audio wasn't good. The lighting was an issue. Now, mind you, the lighting, there's nothing you can do about it because of where they were in, pretty much in Newcastle. I can't remember what the name of the arena was. Westerner Arena, I believe. I'm not sure about the name. You guys can tell me below. I don't remember it. But you can't always work with the lighting. Sometimes the lighting just, you can't work with it, and it's always going to be an issue. But I'm going to tell you, the audio wasn't that great. The camera work was not that great. And you could take away from the lighting. When you see the wrestling in the ring, it was all generally good. And I got no problem with that. It was all generally good wrestling. But this is still a big question. And I'm going to give my opinion at the end of this review about what's going to happen with TNA next year. Now, if you've already seen my Gump report on it, I will probably talk a little bit more about it, but this was not a bad show, but still production when it comes to these Impact Plus shows, which should be at least better than the TV show. It should be better than the TV show. It should be better than the TV show, and it wasn't because they wanted to save money. I'm sorry. I'm telling the truth. They've done this for years. What did we get for the kickoff? We got Grado and Rhino versus two guys. I remember one of them was supposed to be well, he looked pretty good. He was 19 years old. He looked pretty decent in the ring. And they didn't have a problem with him. But I expected them to lose. You're talking about a legend in Rhino and someone that is loved like Grado, not only in Europe, but also most people who love TNA and Impact. Now, for me personally, I don't mind if Grado came back for a short stint in Impact Wrestling going into TNA or TNA. I know the Seg Daddy won't like him because he didn't like him before. He did kind of warm up to him and then he just didn't like him at all. And then we're talking about Jesse, Chi-Town Smart. I don't know if he's going to like Grado. I don't think he might. He might, but it's going to be a question if his style of comedic attitude is going to translate with him. For me personally, I grew up with British comedy. One of the rare great things living in New York City back in the 70s, 80s was what they did was having Channel 21 and Channel 13 had to deal with BBC to air shows that were on their network. They showed a lot of British comedy. They showed a lot of also, if you've never heard of Space 1999, you need to look it up. If you've never heard of Blake 7 or Doctor Who, you need to look it up. That is sci-fi, British sci-fi. British comedy is Are You Being Served? Are You Being Served Again? That was the ones I watched, I really loved. Also, Allo Allo, which you need to look that up. Allo Allo was the most weirdest mess you could see. A British comedy of 1940s France, occupation by the Nazis, by Germany and the Nazis, and you got the French resistance dealing with a cafe owner who played around with every woman he can get his hands on, almost. I'm telling you, it was funny as hell. But I'm not trying to get away from that, but British comedy and how British wrestlers, and they do their comedic attitude, it's a little bit different than American. It doesn't always translate sometimes. So I don't know if Chi-Town Smart's going to like it. I don't know if Jesse will. But the match was fine, and you know who won. Now, the second match was Mark Haskin. And he had his wife there. I believe her name was, what was her name again? I can't remember. Vicky, I believe. Vicky Haskin versus Leo Slater. Now, he's 19 years old. He's green. If anybody says he looks great, doesn't matter. He's green. I could see it. He doesn't have a lot of charisma. He jumps around a lot. He doesn't have a lot of ring experience. He needs more. And when you see him, and I'm not saying he's trash, but he's still green. He's 19. But he won his match. He was the North Wrestling champion. So North Wrestling in, Newcastle. Might be a small promotion, might be a large one, I don't know. But he was the champion there. But at the end of 2023 into 2024, he'll be dropping the title because after he won that match, Scott D'Amore came out, gave him a contract, so he signed. He will come in 2024. Now, I did see his promo, pretty much what he said. And it wasn't his accent that made me feel like he needs work. It was his delivery. He was enthusiastic, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you can tell what he needs is experience. So Con Air Pro Wrestling or the wrestling school really got a lot of work on their hands right now. He needs to not only be on Impact TV, he needs to work at Can-Am. You know what I mean. I don't know why I always get Scott D'Amore's wrestling school name wrong. I don't know what it is. But he needs work. That doesn't mean he doesn't have potential. He does. I can see it. That's the reason why they signed him. He has potential, not just good in-ring work. There's something there that could work. I do believe that. But he needs a lot of work. Main card. Josh and EY versus Subculture. Now, Subculture jobbed when they had the special, and that was with pretty much, who was it in that one? I'm trying to remember. I think, who did they go up against? I can't remember. I think it was it Moose and Myers? No, Moose and Myers went up against Motor City Machine Guns. Who did Subculture go up against? No, it was in a six-person tag. My mistake. And it was Viana Peraza, it was Moose, Myers. Pretty much when it came to them, we knew they weren't going to win. And here, again, and taking nothing away from Josh and Eric Young, they had to win because they jobbed to the Motor City Machine Guns on the special. And here, there was no way they weren't going to win because it looks like they're going to team them together. Kind of try and bring back a little bit of Team Canada. Not saying that Scott D'Amore is going to manage them, but it looks like they want to do something maybe like that. But I'm not going to lie here. When it comes to Andrews and I really like Subculture. I actually do like them. And honestly, I wish we'd see more of them. I'm telling the truth. I'd rather see more of them. But we're not going to see them. I mean, I don't understand. You can tell they got talent. You can tell they're fun. Danny Luna, and I'm going to tell you how I feel about Danny Luna. That woman, understand, Danny Luna has got something. But I'll elaborate later. But I just wish Subculture would be signed to Impact, which they're not. Let's go to the next match. And that would be Trey versus Rick Swann. It was not a bad match. It's what we've seen from them before. They both are great, high-flying wrestlers. Both of them have charisma. And that's something you can say is very hard to see in most high-flying wrestlers. Trey Miguel has a good gimmick. He's in the Rascals. He's got charisma. Then you got Rick Swann. He's very charismatic. He's also very good high flyer. So you see two good high flyers who have charisma deal with one another. But then there's not that much charisma because they weren't really playing a lot to the crowd, either one of them. Both of them were just trying to do a straight match, trying to beat one another. And that kind of hurt it for me personally. Because if you got two high-flying wrestlers who like to do high impact, a lot of kicking, but they're not showing as much charisma in their personality, kind of drops it for me. Because I've seen them both do it in their matches if it's against someone who's not a high flyer or someone who's with it. But here we didn't see much of it. We saw a lot of high spots, and that kind of hurt me. That brought it down for me personally. But other people, they would love it if they love high flying. And other people who just don't like high flying, just going to say it's nothing but garbage. For me, it brought it down from being here to here. Not saying it was garbage. It wasn't. They didn't have many botches. The match did have its moments where they did play a little to the crowd. But in the end, this is what you got. You got Rick winning. What was it? Rick winning? Yeah, Rick won it. And he did a decent job at it. I didn't have a problem with it. Now, here's where it gets a little interesting. Joe Hendley versus Simon Miller. Now, I have seen What Culture. I've seen him more than a few times. That is a charismatic guy who I think at one point was wrestling or still is wrestling in Europe. At least once in a while. And supposedly they're actual friends. And they tried to set up a storyline which we did not see. Guess why? Because they left it behind a damn paywall. And you don't see it unless you pay for it on YouTube and be an Ultimate Insider. This is where the Ultimate Insider stuff becomes an issue. Because there's people who are not paying for that. They're still watching on Access TV. Or Fubi. I believe that's Fubi. Because I know Fubi also replays Impact Wrestling and old TNA shows. They do replays there. So there's going to be people who don't want to pay $5 or $6 a month to be a insider or Ultimate Insider. They don't want to. They got places where they can see Impact Wrestling. So when they don't show Joe Hendley's show on Impact Wrestling YouTube channel, we don't know anything about it. For me personally, I'm not watching it. I'm not. Because I don't really have an interest for that. There's very few things I'm going to do. And particularly, I got to be careful how much money I spend. Because I am on a budget. I am disabled. I don't have huge amounts of money to spend here. I got to spend my money wisely. So, not being able to see when they started fighting under that snippet they showed is an issue for me personally. I can understand why they do it because they want to make some money and make it interesting for people who are doing, pretty much joining and doing subscription. They got to do something. But sometimes you got to release this stuff after it's been there for a while and not leave it behind a paywall. So was the match bad? No. You see them both playing at each other. You see Joe Hendley messing with him beforehand in his vid pack, and then you see Simon pretty much playing to the crowd as the heel. Was he a good wrestler? I can't really tell you yes or no, because this is the first time I've ever seen him wrestle. It could have been crap, or it could have been good. I just don't know if he's done heavy wrestling or not. So it looked like a standard wrestling match where both of them were able to get some work done in the ring. In the end, who do you think was going to win? Who do you think was going to win? Joe was going to win. Of course he was going to win. If Simon doesn't wrestle often, it's very rare for him to wrestle, and they gave him the opportunity and maybe a little bit of this, of course he was going to do it. Fine. But I didn't expect a lot from it. Sometimes I do get worried for Joe because he likes to hold a delayed suplex. And he likes to do bending at the knees. But you guys tell me below, sometimes he really looks like he's struggling to do those knee bends. And I'm worried that one of these days, he's going to haul someone up and hold them in that delayed suplex. And he's going to try and do this bending at the knees, and he's going to blow out one of his knees. Because he doesn't look like he physically is strong enough to do something like that. He can do a suplex, no problem. But bending at a knee suplex, I'm worried for him because he doesn't have that kind of physique for it. He doesn't look like he does weight training like John Cena used to do, so he can do Olympic lifts, so his knees wouldn't give out so easily. I'm worried about that for him. That's just me. Doesn't mean he isn't a good wrestler. Let's move on to 4 of them. No, 5. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3. Trey and Shaw. Why did I put 4 and 4? I'm an idiot. In my notes, I put 4 and 4 instead of 5 and now 6. 6. You got... Let me get you like this. Chris Sabin and Kaz versus Moose and Myers. it's interesting to see the futures in a Chris Sabin and a Kaz to work together because, as many people know, I didn't know it until they started explaining it. When it came to Kaz and it came to Chris, they were known as the future. And they used to go up against each other trying to prove that the future of the business is going to be both of them. Well, either one of them. And pretty much they both have proven it by going all over the place and showing how great of a wrestlers they are. And they're going up against Moose and Myers. And Myers, who's been in the business as long as either one of them, it's good to see something like that. To see them work together. But the question is going to be, what are they going to do with these four guys? Because if you do the futures and a Chris Sabin and a Frankie Kazarian, I wouldn't mind seeing them as a tag team. One of them is the X Division champion, the other one's not. It would be good for the tag division because we don't have that many tag teams. I wouldn't mind seeing them as the futures. It would be alright next to Moose and Myers. Let them go up against, Subculture again. Let them go up against whoever else they still have on the roster that works together. I'm just saying. I really wish for that. And of course, Moose and Myers wins. But don't think I didn't forget. If you didn't see it, at one point they decided they wanted Moose and Myers, and that was Frankie and Chris, to really let them know one another very, very intimately. So what did we do? We got Myers hung up in the tree world. Moose was nailed, almost about to nail his partner in the gonads with his head. Moose was tripped up, and they decided to grab Moose, pull his head into, pull his head into Myers' head, and then when Myers fell on top of Moose, because they pulled him into the turnpost, he lands his head into Moose's head. So both of them had a chance to know each other's heads. I don't know if I got a shot of it. I don't even know if I'm putting images here, but if I am, this is one of those I'm showing if I got it. That is something you don't see every day. And everyone was cracking up laughing. And I gotta admit, you don't see that every day when you see a head with a head with a head with a head. Someone's head knowing someone else's head. And they're struggling like they're little pigs weaseling. No! But they won the match, which I'm not surprised. Now, the match I was waiting for, and I know this is a little bit out of order. It is out of order. Because I care about these 3 matches more than anything. Because that was the main reason I wanted to see Turning Point. 3 matches. Not saying the others would be garbage, but 3 matches. 3 of them. 1. This is the first one. The 2 powerhouses of Impact Wrestling, which one of them just came back. Another one who should be there permanently with Subculture and Danny Luna. You got Jordan Grace versus Danny Luna. A woman, I understand that they both came up together. And 2019 was the last time those 2 faced one another. Great. But when you look at Jordan Grace now, you look at Danny Luna now, and Danny did do a short promo with her boys in the back. And I'm going to tell you, Danny Luna should be signed to Impact. She should. I'm not lying here. Like, I didn't say this about when it came to Gazelle Shaw and Alex Windsor. She should be signed because she has something, but not as much as Danny Luna. Their match was fine. I don't think I even said anything about it. But when it came to Gazelle Shaw and Alex Windsor, that was a good match. They both had story together. They both known each other. And of course, Shaw won. But you could tell that Alex had something. She was interesting. But when it comes to comparing her to Danny, no. Danny has charisma out her ass. Compared to Jordan when she first started at Impact. Let's make this clear. Jordan was what? 24 years old when she first started. She did not have charisma. She didn't have a real personality. She didn't have an attitude. I look at Danny. She's got it already. There's a stark difference between the Juggernaut now and the Juggernaut then. Danny is where Jordan is now. Here. And I'm telling you, 100%, if they don't sign Danny Luna, it's a waste. Because during that match, you got the Juggernaut versus pretty much, if you want to say the Hulk versus Juggernaut, you got that. Both of them are pretty much strong powerlifters. Yeah. When it comes to Danny, Danny is not as strong as Jordan. You could tell. There were certain points that you just is not as strong as Jordan. It's Jordan, it's Danny. But it's not that much. And I want to see them go up against each other again. I would love to have seen a real story with this. Why couldn't you save this for Hard to Kill? Where two people who've actually known each other for more than a few years could have had a real story going into Hard to Kill. Or Final Resolution for that matter. I would have loved something where literally these two had a chance to build into it. Maybe they will. We still got a couple of months before Hard to Kill. And I'm kind of hoping they will bring in Danny and Subculture. They keep them again for a couple of months. Or at least until Hard to Kill. You can give us again Jordan Grace with Danny Luna. It was one of the better matches. I mean, a lot of the matches are alright. But this is one of the better ones for me personally. Yes, Jordan won. I'm not surprised. But it makes me want to see it again. For me personally, you got two power wrestlers who are decently good wrestlers. They are not bad. Just saying. Second best match. And that is Trinity versus Deonna Purrazzo with a Gail Kim as ref. If Deonna loses, no more shots. She is done. She's had now 3 attempts. She lost the first one. She lost the second one. And now this is her last chance. This is it. Kind of like what happened with Jordan Grace. She's had 4 shots at Deonna. She lost 3 times, but she was allowed another one so she can get another shot at the title, which she lost. Now it's Deonna Purrazzo's shot. This was the second best match for me personally. I can easily say Jordan Grace and Danny Luna was a match I was looking to see. I wanted to see it. But it wasn't the third best match. Not saying it was a bad match. I would have to say Rich Swann and Trey was better than their match. But I'm not saying their match was bad. It's good. But this is the second best match for me. The story was there. Both of them are very good wrestlers. And here's what I've always said about Trinity. When you see her, if you've seen her enough, you can tell her personality when she wrestles. When she shows her character, her charisma. When she's happy, you can see whether she's a bad guy, if she's a good guy, if she's angry or anything to go with her character. Her personality is still there enough. You can tell she's having fun. And when you see her in this match, yes, she's doing what she's got to do as the champ. But I could tell this woman is having fun. She's happy. And let me make this clear. I've been seeing this woman since 2012 when she came in with Cameron and the Funkasaurus, who's been around for a long time himself. And I can tell you, from when she first started until now, it's a stark difference who she is. When you see this match, this was mostly technical. And many people say that Naomi was never a good wrestler. Guys, I think she's going to Scott D'Amore's school for more practice. Because when you see her style now from when she first started in Impact, it's different. She's showing way more technical wrestling than she's ever done. And understand, she's not a bad wrestler. But when you see it, definitely, she has improved her wrestling style. She was doing chain wrestling at one point. Very good chain wrestling. I still don't believe that she is a ring general yet. She's getting there. You could see that she was mostly leading the match. And Deonna was doing it more than her. Because Deonna is a better wrestler. There's no lie about it. This is Deonna. This is Trin. Trin is not that far behind her. And Deonna led most of that match. But Trin was also allowed to be able to lead the match as well. There was very few botches between the two women. It looked like a very good, clean match. In the end, Trin won. Deanna whacked her after it was over because she was mad. And then you got Gail Kim trying to break it up. Deanna getting straight in her face. And pretty much pissing off Gail Kim so she gets eat defeat. So there's a possibility at Final Resolution, maybe at Final Resolution, this is going to be a question. It's going to be a question, guys. Will Gail Kim put the boots back on and face Deanna at Final Resolution, the last show under the Impact Wrestling banner? It's going to be a question. I don't know. The final match of the night. And, before I get any further, they did show Gut Check. European Gut Check. We got, who is it? Ariel, what's her name? Hemsley? Hemser. I'm messing up her name. I'll just say Ariel. And then you got Mike D. Both of the two people are the final Gut Check winners who are going to Can-Am Wrestling School. And they're going to work on their trade right there. I know I'm getting the names wrong. I'm sorry. I'm bad when I see someone's name. If I'm not familiar with them, I'll mess it up. Or if I write it real sloppy because I write like a doctor who scribbles. I didn't write her name very well. I tried to catch it, but I missed it. But both of them look like... Mike D looks more interesting than Ariel, if that's her name. Aria. Or Ariel, whatever her name is. He looks more interesting. He's Belgium. He looks interesting. And Aria, I believe that's her name, Aria. I'm not saying she couldn't be interesting. I'm not sure yet. We'll need to see her eventually. She looks very greenish, like him. They show very little of him. And they show very little of her. But I have this feeling, the way she spoke, she was green. When it came to Mike, he was more polished speaking. Probably he's been wrestling a little bit more and he worked on his ability to do a promo much than her. So, I don't still know. She might be the more experienced wrestler after more years. She just never was a very good talker. Finally, the match that was the best match. Will Ospreay of New Japan Pro Wrestling versus Eddie Edwards of Pro Wrestling Noah. You got a Pro Wrestling Noah guy versus a New Japan Pro Wrestling guy. Both of them are the first to ever win a championship as a foreigner in each promotion. In either the World Championship for Pro Wrestling Noah or New Japan Pro Wrestling. I'm going to tell you this. It was a hard-hitting match. It was hard to see because of the camera work, but what we could see of it was a damn good match. I loved the match. Now, understand, I'm not a high-flying wrestler. And you could see Will is a very high-flying, very physical wrestler. And then you see a Eddie Edwards who used to be more of a high-flying wrestler, but has become more physical, more hardcore, more ground and pound. There's a difference. They're not both the same anymore. I mean, you got high-flying. He used to be high-flying. Now he's like this. So it was a decent matchup. He really had to pull out a little bit of high-flying to be able to keep up with Will. But he was no match for Will when it comes to high flying. But Will just didn't have the physical attributes as of Eddie Edwards. I would tell you this. The match was very good. And I did not expect Eddie to win. He was going to lose, and he did. And then after it was over, you got Will Ospreay joking around about his roof, which was he got his stove fixed. Then he thought the roof was about to pop off because everyone thought he was going to talk about going to Impact, TNA. He didn't say that, but he made it very clear to people in the back and everyone there. Thank you. TNA would not be the way it is if it wasn't for you. I would have never loved TNA if it wasn't for people like the ones in the back. He made it very clear. He put them over. But I'm going to tell you this. Was this a good show? Yes, it was. I'm not going to tell you it was a bad show. But I'm not going to tell you that it was good quality. Look, if you're going to put on an Impact Plus show or a TNA Impact Plus show, you need to get the quality better. And I'm going to tell you this. When it comes down to it in 2024, and I know I've had one person who left me the sonnets like he normally does, or basically a novel. I know, you know who you are. You know I love you. You know I love you. But when it comes down to it, is TNA going to work out? This is a big question. So here's the deal, guys. As I said in the beginning of this video, I would tell you my feelings about what's going on with Impact Wrestling going to TNA, and is this the future? And here it is. I've already made a video, my gut report on this. I may do a connection to this, showing and talking about what I thought about TNA. But I'm going to make this clear. This is a big question. No matter how much hype that many people are going to have in the comments, I know there's a few people who are just hyped that TNA Wrestling, total non-stop. How can I say this not sounding like I'm a hypocrite? I'm not. I've been doing this for 11 years. 11, guys. I've been reviewing originally TNA Wrestling until they switched over in 2012 officially on the show to Impact Wrestling. They made the announcement on the show in 2011 they were switching. And in 2012 officially they changed the logo and they referred to it as not TNA but Impact. I have been reviewing this show for 11 years. 11. Nearing 12 when next year comes around. And I'm telling you right now, the question is going to be, what are they going to do different than what they're doing now? Mind you, yes, they got Trinity there. They got some good wrestlers there. Hell, we don't know where Will Ospreay or CM Punk is going to come to the show. We don't know because I haven't checked. Ace Steel, I believe, is still with Impact. I'm not sure. They haven't shown anything about him being hired yet in any of the websites yet. He was supposed to do some tapings, which would probably be Chicago right now. If it hasn't already happened, it's going to be probably he's going to do the tapings when they start in Chicago. That is what I think is going to happen here. So we don't know what's going to happen after those tapings. Is he going to be hired? Is he going to want to be hired? We don't know. And we don't even know if CM Punk will choose to come to Impact. So many people have so many questions about him and how controversial he is. But let's make this clear. Could he go to Impact Wrestling? Of course he can. Are they going to pay him the same way as AEW and WWE? No. If anybody thinks, oh, Anthem will pay, no, they won't. There's a strong possibility they will never pay him as close to what he had in AEW with Tony Khan, or what he could get with WWE and the board there with Ari and Mary. See it like this. Ari Emanuel will have to sign off on whatever is going to be paid for. He will, because he owns the company. He's on the board of directors. If Vince is the executive chairman, which he still is, he's not been removed from the position. If he says to Ari, I want to pay for this guy, I'm going to pay for him, it's going to be how much? And it could be up to $20 million for a CM Punk. We don't know how much it would be. Because we do know when it came to Brock Lesnar, they paid up to at least near $15-20 million for him. He wasn't cheap to get. So with CM Punk, who's so controversial, he could go up to that high. But CM Punk can choose not to do it. He's been paid by AEW. He's had money. He's going to have his money. They got to pay him whatever they do for his contract. So he's got money. And he got money from WWE as well. He got money from USC at one point. They paid him there too. So I'm sure the guy is not poor. He's got money. He's rich. But the question is, does that matter to him if he wants to go and do pure wrestling? And he sees that WWE under Triple H, he really didn't like him that much. And Vince, he doesn't like him that much. Of course, he can't go right now back to AEW, at least from what we see, because we don't know who's under the mask. Maybe CM Punk might be the one under the mask. Maybe it could be somebody else. It could be Adam Cole. It could be CM Punk. It could be Bobby Fish. I don't know who's under the mask. But the question is, whoever is under the devil mask, they're eventually going to be shown. But does it mean CM Punk will go to Impact? He could, if he doesn't really care that much about how much money he gets. So the key here is, What is TNA going to be like afterward? And I know the guy I spoke about earlier, he left basically a novel saying what he found on the websites. It don't matter what's on the websites. As much as many of that is going to be true, it's going to be what they're going to do on the show. And this is what people don't understand. As much as the dirt sheets in every website says something, no matter what, we need to know what's going to happen on the show. What is TNA going to be like? They said they're never going to bring back the six-sided ring, but they say they never know. You know what will happen? There's going to be a point where something may happen where they be forced to bring the six-sided ring back. Not because they don't want to. No matter what anybody says, that the wrestlers need to do the six-sided ring, whether it's very bad for the body or not, that's not going to matter. I'm telling you right now, what Scott D'Amore said, he's not lying, but he doesn't have to keep to that, because what's going to be the question is, what is going to bring in money and the fans? Whatever, understand, no matter what anyone says, Anthem does not cover the full budget of TNA when it becomes TNA. They still have to get money from ticket sales, from their merchandise, from the YouTube app, from the Fightful app, and whatever they get from anywhere else, any other agreements internationally. That is where they get the bulk of their budget. That's where they get it from. And they have to be able to pay for the wrestlers, the lighting, the cameramen. Hopefully they'll be proper cameramen, not screw the hell up. And cameras, and audio. And they got to go to better venues. This is the problem they have for nearly 7 to 6 years, where they had bad audio, they had bad camera work, they had terrible storylines. People would not stay. They would bring them into storylines, and guess what? When they brought them into storylines, because they didn't renew their contract in time, or because they knew they were going to stop the people there, instead of just making them go, they increase their amount into the story, and then when they leave, the story's a wreck. This is what we've been having for years. The question is going to be, will that all go away? And what Scott D'Amore said, we don't need to be thought of like that anymore. Whatever's going on now is going to go on now. Well, guess what, Scott? If you saw me right now, one, I do respect you as a wrestler and someone who's representing the company. But I know for a fact, it don't work that way. Because people will always look at what you do. Because when next year rolls around, and it'll probably take you more than 2, 3, 4, 5 months to roll out all of the new stuff that you want to do. You got a big, literally a huge planet-sized microscope on you, because they're going to watch and see how you're going to act. Are you going to be better in what you've been doing? Like, are the Impact Plus shows going to have better production value? Because that's the major problem. It's not about the storylines. It's not about the wrestling. It's your production that's been killing you there. The main show, are you also going to have production problems, or you solved that? Are you going to bring people in and have them stay longer than a few months from taping? Are you going to do more live events? Are you going to go to bigger venues so you can do your live events? And the most important thing, you need to have better stories. Because to bring people in who wish to work for your company, like a Will Ospreay, maybe a CM Punk, maybe a former Dolph Ziggler, or any one of the people that have been released from WWE, like a Mustafa Ali. Hell, if, let's say, Malachi Black leaves, because there was a lot of questions back in September, he wanted to leave because of stress and how his character was being done. He was badly stressed out. Mentally, he was not himself. What happens if he does leave AEW and he doesn't want to go back to WWE, but he goes to where his wife, Thea, she was there. Thea Trinidad used to be in Impact Wrestling. So maybe he'll go there. But will the writing be good? Will you bring in better writers next to Ace Steel? Will maybe Devon be able to write? Will you bring in someone that can make the stories really mean something? Or are you going to keep the same people you've been letting write for so many years, who were from the older generation of when it was still Dixie Carter, or you got new people in, along with a few old people who were always known to be decent writers, along with yourself, Scott? You got to show the fans that you're going to do something different. Saying all this stuff means nothing until we see it. I say 5 months max, where people are going to be examining you like a microscope that's as big as this planet, and going to see if you're going to fail, are you going to succeed, or are you just going to be the same old Impact Wrestling, just called TNA. And after all the hype, where people were so excited, even I was excited, Bound for Glory, to know that you changing your name, I thought, are they really going to go back to many of the things they used to have? King of the Mountain match? Maybe something extra that you used to do that you stopped immediately? I don't know. I thought that. And now, as someone who has to review you, or as anybody's watching this, I have to review the shows. As I said in my comments to somebody, I'm reviewing this company for what it shows, not for what is in the dirt sheets. What they show on screen is the key here. No matter what you think, what's on screen is the most important thing. Because no matter what you see in the dirt sheets about who's going to win a match, who's going to lose a match, who's going to be coming, who's going to be going, who's going to be signed or not, means nothing until you see it on the show. You see it in the pay-per-views and the Impact Plus shows. Impact Plus shows. I say Impact Plus. But you get my point. We need to see it in 2024. We need to see the change. We need to understand these changes. Are they going to be good changes for the company, or are they going to just be the same old garbage we've been seeing for the last 5 or 6 years, where Scott has taken, 4 or 5 years, say about 4 years, since Scott took over. Are we still getting the same stuff for the last 4 years? Honestly, we need more than that. We need something more than what we had for the last 4 years. We need way more. But this is just me, and I hope you enjoy this turning point. I will be doing my, hopefully, unless I change my mind and not do Crown Jewel at 1 o'clock here in New York, I will be watching it and I'll be reviewing it. Peace.